LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
T.A. We are live. Welcome into the Tigers Avenue show. It is officially, Zach, game week for the Diamond Tigers. Jay Johnson and his team will take the field Friday afternoon, actually, at 2 p.m. Cannot be more excited for this to roll around. It just, football, I feel like it comes and goes so quickly. And I'm thankful that the Super Bowl, can get us up to this point and lead us into baseball. As we're going to talk about tonight, some of the hoops has been amazing. Some of the hoops has been really bad. It is literally polar opposites, it feels like. I mean, the best of the best and the worst of the worst. That's about what you got with the basketball teams right now. We'll obviously talk more about that in depth. But very, very grateful right now. Very, very grateful that baseball is kicking off this Friday in lieu of the football season coming to a close. So, obviously, we're going to give you Little Hoops a recap. We're going to talk about Matt McMahon because a lot of people are having that conversation right now. It's rock bottom right now. So, inevitably, the question will be, do you fire him? Do you let him go? And I think we need to, whenever we evaluate that question, we're going to obviously weigh the cost, put the entire thing in context, and then get the answer that I think we need to come to a conclusion that best suits LSU. But we'll see. We'll get to that here in a minute. But obviously, there's more into it than just firing him. And then, of course, obviously, we've given you our baseball infield preview. We will give you our outfield preview tonight, Thursday night. We will be back, and we will give you our pitching rotation preview. Mike Bowen, what's up, man? Good to see you in here. Appreciate you coming in and commenting, buddy. So we'll obviously talk about the outfield. It's a little bit more, Zach. It's a little bit more competitive in the outfield than discussed in the infield. There are options in the outfield. I would dare say it's the deepest part of this team. The outfield is. So we will venture into all of the avenues that the outfield is going to present this year. All the weapons that are out there. There's a lot of guys that really could contribute. And so there's going to be a little bit more of discussion on how that will play out than in the infield. The infield, you feel like it's going to be Braswell third, Milam short, Dickinson second, obviously, Bear Jones at first, and then the biggest question mark on the infield, as we've already discussed, was the catcher. And Zach, I think it's appropriate that Thursday we'll give you our prediction for opening day lineup and expect. I mean, a lot of Thursday shows is going to be all baseball. We'll probably give you final preview of pitching.
Yep.
Final prediction for starting lineup, opening day,
season.
Season expectations, ceiling, floor. All of those things on Thursday.
Yeah.
So you want all things baseball, come back Thursday, and you're going to get it. So, but tonight we'll go deep dive into the outfield. With that being said, Zach, let's get things rolling here. Hoops recap. Zach, unfortunately, I kept up with it, but I didn't get to watch the women's LSU versus Tennessee game. It looked like, as I watched kind of on the game cast on my phone, we were hosting a big Super Bowl bash Sunday. So Sunday afternoon, I was frying chicken. And so I wasn't able to watch, but kept up with it. But looked like a really, really good game. That again, right? Because the other game was just as good against Tennessee. Obviously, you get them at home this time, and you come out on top. It's another big win for these Lady Tigers. Zach, maybe you could talk a little bit more about the game. I know you were able to watch a little bit of it. Another big win for the Lady Tigers, Zach.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, when you go back to the first meeting between these two here in this season, you had Kaylin Gilbert that hit a last-second shot to give LSU a 2-point victory there in Knoxville, which obviously was a huge win. The reason this one is also just a massive win, I know Tennessee has looked not so great in the conference. They're sitting at 4-6. But when you look at their losses, all of their losses came against ranked teams. All of their losses came within less than 8 points.
Yeah,
every single one of them. They had a combined before Sunday's game against LSU. Their 5 losses in conference had combined for 20 points deficit, which is pretty crazy. This is a really good Tennessee team. They've just had a very, very difficult schedule. Their schedule will lighten up. I think they'll prove to continue to be a really good team in the SEC and throughout women's college basketball. But the story of this game was Kaylin Gilbert. This game was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Tennessee would go on a run, take a little bit of a lead. LSU would go on a run, take a little bit of a lead. But the big story was in the third quarter. In the third quarter, Flau'jae Johnson and Anissa Morrow got into foul trouble. They did not play the majority of the third quarter, and who stepped up other than Kaylin Gilbert? Kaylin Gilbert has been on a little bit of a skid here recently since that Tennessee game when she hit the game winner. Hasn't been as productive as we've seen her, and she really just sparked this team in the third quarter. I believe she only had 2 points. It was either 2 or 4 or something like that going into halftime, and she just exploded onto the scene in the second half with offensive outpour. She ends the game with 23 points. 21 of that coming in the second half. So she was the story for LSU. She was the reason LSU was able to win this game. They were able to pull away late, 182-77 against, again, like I mentioned, a really good Tennessee team that's just had a really, really, really tough schedule so far this season in conference. Anissa Morrow, she did what she always does, not as offensive as you expect her to be, and that was because she had the foul trouble. And then obviously Flau'jae Johnson, she also was a little bit on the less productive side, only scoring 12 points. You're used to her scoring 20, 25 points a game, but she also had the foul trouble. Michaela Williams has been a lot more consistent. She puts in 16. But Kaylin Gilbert, to be able to get 23 points from Kaylin Gilbert off the bench, Miracle Shepherd also had a really good game off the bench. She scored 8 off the bench. Jada Richard had 5 off the bench. So your bench really produced in this game. 36 points off the bench is massive when it comes to conference play. I know it's been discussed before, but we've discussed it at this year as well. Being able to have the depth that you have this year as compared to last year is just massive. It's massive. To have Kaylin Gilbert, who, in my opinion, is really, really like another starter, to have her come in and have the production and the minutes that she has had. I mean, she had 22 minutes. Miracle Shepherd, not a starter, but had 27 minutes. So they're putting in starter minutes. Like they're going over 20 plus minutes in the game. So just really incredible effort from LSU's bench, and that was really the story of the game, as compared to Tennessee's bench that only scored the 6 points off their bench. They're just really good, Reagan. They're really, really good. They're deep. Obviously, the big three is awesome to watch. It's really a special year for LSU women's basketball. I hope that they can continue to develop as a team, because obviously you've got a really tough stretch the rest of the way here in conference play. It doesn't really get any easier. This upcoming no game during the week, but this upcoming Sunday, they got to travel to Texas, who just knocked off South Carolina. That's going to be an absolutely massive matchup, and a difficult one to win. If you go on the road to Texas and win that game, you are in the driver's seat as far as the SEC conference goes, to be the SEC conference regular season champion. Yeah. You're in the driver's seat there. You got to face Georgia at home, which should be an easy win. They should be able to handle that pretty easily. Georgia's really struggled this year. But then you go, look at this, Reagan, check this out. On the road at number 8 Kentucky, on the road at number 21 Alabama, and then you host at Ole Miss, who's not ranked, but another really good team in the SEC.
Kentucky. They just knocked off Kentucky.
Exactly. So the road ahead for LSU, while it's been really, really good, you only had the one blemish on the schedule on the road at South Carolina, which completely understandable. The road ahead is the most difficult that LSU will face this season, and it started this past Sunday against Tennessee at home. So to get that win was really massive, because if you don't win there, it's possible you lose back-to-back games going to Texas. You probably bounce back against Georgia, and then you've got the last 3 that are going to be really, really tough. Of the remaining 5 games, LSU travels in 3 of them, and all of those being ranked. And all of those road games are against ranked teams. So, yeah, even though LSU looks good right now, we've got to prepare ourselves, because it's going to be a very difficult road for LSU the rest of the way. They can definitely win out. I definitely believe that, but expect it to get a lot more difficult in this next month or so.
Yeah.
Before they hit postseason. But anyways, overall, great win for the Tigers, the women's Tigers, that is. On the flip side of things, Reagan, the men had a very heartbreaking loss.
Not just heartbreaking, but really, really, really frustrating. Really frustrating. So since we've talked since our last show, you've watched a few just unacceptable moments. You can look at this roster and say, okay, it's not like the other rosters of the SEC. You can look at how much we're spending compared to other SEC teams on our roster and go, okay, it doesn't really compete. However, you are doing things outside of how good your roster is, outside of how much money you spend on your roster, that are just simply unacceptable. You played Texas on your home court and got absolutely embarrassed by a Texas team that is not very good. It's not that good of a Texas team. Zach, this is the stretch where we looked at it and went, okay, maybe you can collect a few wins. And it's been abysmal. Abysmal.
Yeah.
At home against Texas was one of those games you go, okay, maybe you can get this one. At least expect it to be competitive. But you lost 89-58.
You didn't show up.
89-58 on your home court against a 15-7 Texas team, unranked. Just really, really. You did not have you had one player. You had one player in double digits that game, Jordan Sears, and just really bad. And then Georgia, who's about the same level as Texas. Now, you went to Georgia. But again, another game where you go, okay, you can be competitive in this game. You can be competitive in this game. Maybe you can steal one here on the road and you lose by almost 20 points. 81-62. And so the games that you can look at, Auburn and Alabama and Kentucky and Tennessee and some teams we played, A&M, and go, okay, you're not going to beat them. And I can get that. But not even being competitive, not even making these teams hardly work against you, against these kind of teams that you should be competing with. I'm not saying beat them, but be in the game.
Yeah.
This is where it begins to be kind of inexcusable. And then Saturday, you play a ranked Ole Miss team, a good Ole Miss team. You're playing them at home. It's another game where you go, okay, it's at home. Yes, they're ranked. But maybe, just maybe, you could do something with this game because they're ranked, but they're not Alabama or Auburn or A&M or Tennessee or Florida, right? They're 25. They've been in and out of the rankings, right? So maybe because you have them at home and you played one of the best games you've played all year until there was 3 minutes left in the game. You've played one of the best games you played all stinking year until the final 3 minutes of this game. There is absolutely no excuse, zero excuse for blowing that game the way that LSU blew it. On your own stinking court. You absolutely choked. It is a choke of all chokes. I could get choking a game like that against a ranked team in the pavilion, but you're at the PMAC. And you royally choked this game away. You had this game, at half, you were leading by 6, 33-39. Your biggest issue all year long, turnovers. You didn't turn the ball over as much as you normally do. Now, you turned it over more than Ole Miss did. But it wasn't as much as you normally have. It was a little bit less.
Yeah.
You only turn the ball over 10 times. I mean, we've normally been in the range of 15 to 18 or more. So you didn't turn the ball over as much. You out-rebounded them just barely by 1. Look at this game. You go, it's a game you should have won. You had an 11-point lead. 11-point lead with 3 minutes to go in this game, and you choked it away. Inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. And to cap it off, like you said, Zach, you lose it on a final second tip-in by Ole Miss. They hit the final shot. They go up. The shot is missed. The bounce back. They tip it in. Originally, the basket was waved off, but it was obviously before the buzzer went off, and it went in. It was clearly in. They overruled the call, overturned the call. Ole Miss won the ball game, and you have got to now. This is where it begins to go, Zach, away from the conversation shifts from your talent in it isn't as good. You're not spending as much in NIL. You lost your two most veteran players, right? The focus and the shift in that moment shifts away from that to coaching. That is coaching.
Yeah.
When you have an 11-point lead with less than, Zach, 5 minutes left, with 3 minutes left in the stinking game, and you choked it away. You've got to be able to close a game out, make shots, possess the ball, hit your free throws because they're going to be fouling you more to save time, and you couldn't do it, and you blew it on a last-second shot. It really, really, really is unacceptable. And that is why, Zach, that is why the conversation of Matt McMahon is starting to stir. That's why. You have 3 games in a row where it was just unacceptable. Absolutely. Yeah, we get it. You lost to Auburn. Okay. You were competitive with Alabama at Alabama.
And Auburn.
You were decently competitive against A&M. These are top 15 teams. 2 of them are top 5.
Yep.
One of them's number 1 in the country. You beat Arkansas at home. But then you look at the stretch where you're going, okay, this is where we can do it. And there's nothing to show for. The 31-point loss to an unranked Texas team on your home court, 20-point loss to Georgia on the road, and then at home with the opportunity to steal a win against a ranked opponent with a double-digit lead with 3 minutes left, you choked it away. That is why the conversation of Matt McMahon is stirring. That is coaching. That's a problem for coaching.
Yeah, no doubt.
And we have been, Zach, we're 25 minutes in. We can kind of swing the conversation now. I knew there would be a natural transition here from men's hoops to Matt McMahon on the hot seat. This conversation is beginning because of that. We have been supporters of Matt McMahon, and I still am, okay? I want to see the guy be successful. I do. I like him. I like the hire. I mean, Zach, you look at his final season at Murray State, and you go, you got a good hire, right? They had won 30 stinking games that year, undefeated in their conference with that team, KJ Williams and Justice Hill and Trey Hannibal, and right, that team that Murray State had put together, and they went to the second round in the NCAA tournament. You know, undefeated conference, OVC tournament champions. He like percentage wise was about 70% winning at Murray State. Very successful, and obviously there's notoriety with John Morant, right? That kind of notoriety is good. I mean, you look at it and you go, okay, this looks like a great hire. And I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying now we know it wasn't a good hire. I think it was. All of those things check the box. When you look at that, you go, okay, check. This looks like a guy who's ready to take the next step. He's ready to step into a Power 5 role, Power 6 role in basketball. So I made the sense made hire. The hire made sense, I think, to everybody. However, the situation demanded you to It forced you to overinvest in light of what happened. And this is the NCAA too, and how the NCAA works.
Yeah.
You had two things going on with Will Wade and his wiretap and paying Javonte Smart and whoever else, whatever it was. The strong offer, right, that they heard on the wiretap. They had him, and that had been going on for so stinking long. However, the whole Our Lady of the Lake thing was going on with football, and everybody was worried about lack of institutional control. And now hindsight's 2020, you go, okay, they slapped LSU on the hand, because LSU folded to fire Will Wade. Now, again, I do think it was the right move. It was the right move to fire him. But the NCAA should have closed the book on the whole football ordeal, but were leaving that open because of the Will Wade ordeal, and was kind of holding it over our head, forcing LSU's hand, Scott Woodward's hand, to make a move. Ultimately, the basketball program, it's had some great moments, but we all know the men's basketball program is not the prominent program. It's not even the second prominent program. It's not even the third prominent program. Not even the fourth.
Maybe not be the fifth.
Exactly. So
you're talking football, baseball, women's basketball, gymnastics,
yes,
track and field.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably below all of those. I don't know if there's another one above it.
And that's my point. You're not going to sacrifice your breadwinner in football for your men's basketball program that has not historically been great and not historically drawn a lot of attention. And we all know every sport except football loses revenue. So you ain't going to sacrifice. So what did you do? You made Will Wade the scapegoat for all of that. That's the NCAA kind of forced that, right? It's the right move. You fire Will Wade, and you know what? The sanctions that felt like were about to cave in on LSU was kind of like, oh.
Wasn't too bad.
What was it, they didn't even give us a postseason ban. The 1 year was a self-imposed postseason ban. They gave us some
after a bad year.
yeah, and it was a horrible year. Exactly. You weren't making anything anyways. And you had some scholarship restrictions. You got slapped on the hand because you were willing to fire Will Wade, and everything got closed. It was the right move. But because of that situation, there's question marks all around the program at LSU men's basketball. It's not even that glamorous of a program to come take over. Now, the LSU brand is glamorous. We all know that. It's a well-known brand. And that's because of other sports, but it's not known for its men's basketball. So not only is it not known for its men's basketball, there's a couple things like Shaq and Pete Maravich. But not only that, but you're looking at potential sanctions. You don't know. So you had to, Zach, over-invest into a coach to get them to come. And when you looked at, Matt McMahon, I don't know. He was making $500K, Zach, at Murray State. Maybe you didn't have to invest as much as you did. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to agree. We don't know all the conversations that are behind the scenes. Maybe he wouldn't agree till you got to 2.5.
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't agree till you got to 2 million. I don't know. Regardless, you had to guarantee a guy a long-term contract. You had to give him a good bit of money that you probably wouldn't have normally done. And so now Now, this is stupid to even compare it to this, Zach. It really is stupid that we're saying this. The idea of Brian Kelly being fired, but it's that same situation. There is some idiotic fans out there that are like, "Oh, we should fire," whatever. After a couple, the A&M and the Florida, fire Brian Kelly. That whole stupidity. Anyways, it's the same situation. You can't afford to fire Brian Kelly. You got to pay him $90 million if you want to fire him, right?
Yeah.
You're not firing Brian Kelly. You can't do that. You're not Texas A&M. Well, if you want to fire Matt McMahon, you owe him over $7 million. You owe him over $7 million. Why would we?
Which in basketball is probably close to, I don't know, like if you were to fire Brian Kelly and it was like a $70 million buyout.
Yeah. So Zach, you like, you heard what I said, and I want to ask your thoughts on it, Zach, and then I'll give my thoughts. I wanted to give all the context.
Yeah.
So, what is your thoughts about that? Where we are right now? Should we fire him? Should we not? Does it make sense at this moment, to get rid of him?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Why?
Number one, financially, as you already mentioned, in order for LSU to get better in basketball, it's going to take finances. It's going to take financing a better program, to get better players in, to create better facilities, all those things. And when you do that, it's going to generate more what, Reagan? Revenue.
Yeah.
When you invest in something that produces, it's a successful business model, right? So if you want to fire him, you got to pay him out $7 million, but then you're not going to be able to invest in building the program.
Yeah.
I still believe that Matt McMahon is a good coach. Is he a great coach? I don't know. Is he a good coach? Yeah, he's a good coach.
Right now, I would say no, he's not a great coach. He hasn't proven that yet.
He's not a great coach, but I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
I think he's a good coach. He's not a great coach. He's not a Jay Johnson. He's not a Kim Mulkey. He's a good coach. It's kind of like in the terms of, I would say not comparable as in tenure and anything like that, but I would say kind of on the wavelength of Beth Torina. Like, right? Beth Torina's been a good coach.
Yeah.
She's been a good coach. She's had LSU competitive. They've made good runs, but they've just never been able to have a really super successful season as far as, going a long way in the tournament, right? In the softball tournament. And I know that's different because, like, Beth Torina is making the tournament, but Beth Torina is established, right? And there's been, she's had time to establish the program and stuff. Anyways, that might be a bad comp, but I don't think anybody looks at Beth Torina and goes, "Oh wow, she is a great coach." Beth Torina is a good coach, right? I think Matt coach.
Yeah.
So you're not going to pay the guy $7 million in order to help this program out. It's not going to help this program out.
It won't.
You're restart. You're going to go back to restarting. There's no telling how many guys that would leave the program. That, as we've mentioned, you've had a couple solid, really good recruiting classes. Okay, and exactly. You would lose a ton of those guys.
Victorious Miller
gone. Yeah. Gone. So it's not worth it. It's just not worth it, Reagan. Because the outcome is going to be worse than what you're dealing with right now, in my opinion. So we also just cannot fail to forget the hand that he was dealt. I'm not talking about the last 2 years, but this year. Like the hand that he was dealt this year.
Yeah.
He had his two of his best players out for the season. Like from the jump, pretty much.
One of them
from the jump. Yeah. From the jump, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, as we've said like 100 times, the SEC is the best it has ever been. It's the best it's ever been. So you couple that with everything that's going on, it's not going to be, it's not going to be super successful for this basketball team that's trying to build, right? They're trying to build the program, right? Made it to the NIT last year. That was awesome, right? Went 500 in SEC play. That was awesome. So they're trying to build. But then in year 3, where it looks like, okay, maybe this is a year that they're really competitive, you lose your in my opinion, probably the 2 best players. You could argue Tyrell Ward. Anyways, that's pointless. But 2 of your best players, you lose them in a year, again, where it's the SEC is the best it's ever been, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So like we also just cannot forget that. Like that's the situation we're in right now. Like that it just is what it is, right? So financially and just logically, when you think about what has happened this year, to me it doesn't make sense. I still think you got to ride this out. Now, you get to year 5 and it's more of the same, then fire the guy. Like fire the guy.
Then you're talking about $4 million buyout.
Yeah,
it lowers every year, obviously, but at this point, no.
Yeah, no. The biggest thing is financially. Financially, it doesn't make sense. If you want this program to be better, you need finances. You just restarted this. You just started a rebuild. I know it was 3 years ago, but really it has been building. You just were dealt a really bad hand this year. And yes, Matt McMahon has not had a good coaching outing the last 3 games. That's understandable.
Other coaches have done that too.
It's like
there's been bad runs.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about, they were, again, I know they folded the last 3 minutes, but they looked really good.
They did.
For the majority, for 37 minutes of that ball game, they looked really good. You looked at the Alabama game, the Auburn game. They were competitive, as you mentioned, Reagan. So it's not like Matt McMahon is just doing a horrible job coaching like all the time. Like this isn't like a super consistent, bad job coaching. You just you played really poorly in 2 games against Texas and against Georgia, one of which obviously was on the road.
Yeah.
So that is what kind of bolstered. And then, in a game you played really well, the last 3 minutes just didn't go your way, and you played and you didn't coach well in the last 3 minutes of that ball game, and your players didn't execute. I mean, we have to be reminded of that too. Your players didn't execute, right? If your players execute, then it looks like he did a phenomenal job coaching, right?
Right.
So, that's all a part of it, Reagan. But overall, I understand why, and I understand why people are hollering for the job, because there's obviously some fans out there that want to see this program succeed. They want to see it get back to where it was, when you had when Willie was here and things were going well, and obviously the days of Shaq. I mean there's been really good memories as well, but for the majority it's been lackluster. For the majority, there hasn't been a buy-in. For the majority of the time, there hasn't been major investment in this program. So at this point, it is what it is. So if it's going to be, for the majority, what it's been, why not see this guy through, give him some time, get stuff corrected. Consider the bad situation he was put in this year with two of his best players going down, it being an extremely deep conference. Like, consider all those things. As we talk about, Reagan, context is key. So context here is
It's important. Yeah.
Context is important, and the context is financially it's stupid to fire him, and also you have to consider all of the situation. All the situations of the injuries and the depth of the
and to add on to that, Zach, I think there's also two pressuring factors that fans go, look at this. Why isn't it this? Two things. Number one, your women's program is excelling. I'm going to tell you right now.
But the difference, Reagan, is you hired a national championship winning coach and with Kim Mulkey, and in men's basketball, you hired an up-and-comer that has succeeded at a much lower level.
That's right, 100%. And people are investing in the players. They're getting paid way more than what these men's are. I promise you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The total amount is about $2 million for the men's program. I just saw a post from On3, top women's NIL players. Number one is Livy Dunn at about 4.1. Flajay Johnson's number 2 at 1.5 million. Okay, so
and that's one player.
That's one player, correct. And total, the men's is about 2 million. So you you want to raise $7 million to fire the guy, raise $7 million to invest in his NIL. Number one, that's one pressuring factor. Is your sister team is out here kicking tail.
Yeah.
Number two, people go, look at what Will Wade's doing at McNeese State. And I'm here to tell you right here, right now, you're in this thinking situation because of Will Wade. Matt McMahon had the gall to say, yeah, I'm going to take on this really, really, really hard and crappy situation that Will Wade puts you in.
Yeah.
This is not Matt McMahon's fault. Will Wade brought this, and you feel the apathy of the fan base because it all came crashing down in an abysmal end. And him being fired, it was elation.
And
crashing down
the issue, and people are going to say, Reagan, well, every team was doing that. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Every team was doing it. But it's the manner of which Wade did it. Right? It's the manner. Like other teams, yes, they were doing very similar stuff, and probably still are. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but it's the manner of which he did it. He was obviously unprepared and lazy with how he handled the money moving.
Yeah, I mean, and it cost him. It wasn't legal then. He got caught. Everybody's doing it, but he got caught.
If you're gonna cheat the right way. That's all I can. I mean, that's
caught. So I mean, I like Will Wade. I do. And you look at what he's doing, and again, I get it. Like you look at McNeese State, and you're like, dang, but dude got caught. Like if you wouldn't have got caught for a couple more years, you could be doing it legally now. And imagine where LSU would be with Will Wade in NIL right now.
If he hasn't moved on to another team with a better opportunity.
That's true. But again, that's not Matt McMahon's fault. It's not. He is not having to deal with the repercussions of what he did at LSU at McNeese State. Matt McMahon is.
Yeah.
And there's a fan base that goes, look at what Kim Mulkey's doing. Look at what Will Wade's doing. But he's the one who stepped into the crappy job. And he's the one trying to correct it. So instead of saying, let's up into it, and Zach, not only are you going to pay $7 million to buy him out, you're going to have to buy out the whole staff.
Yeah.
It's gonna. I mean, to upend this thing, you're talking $10 to $12 million. That's just so dumb. Not only that, but revenue share is about to hit in effect in this summer. You're about to have to share a portion of your revenue from the athletic department to your student athletes. $20.5 million to be exact. That's more. That's a whole lot more. You just can't afford it. So if you want him to do good, if you want him to be what you want him to be, if you want to bring this men's program to where you want it to be, then you got to do what everybody just did with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly came to the mic and said, okay, y'all griping and complaining, but why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Because I'm giving you $1 million of my own money.
So now the question is, Reagan, do you want to invest more in football or do you want to invest more in basketball? And we all know that answer.
Everybody knows the answer to that.
So you have to be okay with the product.
So
it goes back to what we were discussing about the business model.
Yes.
When you invest and it produces, there's success and there's satisfaction. If there's no investment, there's not going to be as much fruit being produced, and therefore there's not going to be as much satisfaction.
That's right. And I don't think people are as angry. I mean, people were enraged at Brian Kelly this year. I mean, way more than Matt McMahon. But my point is there's I hate to say it this way, but men's basketball is not important. It's a stupid idea to do that.
It's important, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not important. In comparison to everything else, it's not important.
To LSU's athletic department financial situation, it's
not important.
You're not going to do that. You'd be stupid.
Yeah.
You'd be stupid. So that's the situation Matt McMahon's in. I think he's trying to do his best to make the best of it. It's horrible right now.
Cheer them on, root them on.
Support them any way you can, but it's not going to get any easier because the final stretch of the season's horrible. It's horrible. So, what's up, Tyler? Glad you're in here. Brandon's in here. If they move on from Matt McMahon, who could exactly? You would have to do the same thing. You go hire another mid-major guy.
Yeah, go hire another lower level guy that you're going to have to wait for him to fill out, to establish a program, to build the program,
overhaul the roster,
to even see if he is a coach that can coach at that level. I mean,
he's going to restart in high school. You're going to lose Maisie Mosley and Jalen Reese and the kid from Pennsylvania, the tall, freakish-looking dude.
Yeah,
like I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like 7 foot tall, right? 6'10". That we just signed all three of those guys. And you're going to lose all of them. You're losing Victorious Miller. All these young and up-and-coming guys. Gone.
Yep.
So, exactly. Brandon, you got it. You're getting it. You get the point. It's just not worth it. Just not.
Not realistic, as Brandon put it. All right. We need to take a break, Reagan, and then when we come back, we get to preview the outfield for the LSU baseball team. We'll be back right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at OneNationDoty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue final segment. The segment you've been waiting for. The segment we're excited about. The outfield of the LSU baseball Tigers is loaded. It's loaded with talent. It is a loaded gun.
You could literally field You're literally 3 deep. Like, if you're going to talk in terms of football, you're 3 deep.
Sure. Yeah. So, Zach, just to start here, since we're on that, right? Number one, Chris Stanfield, Derek Curiel, Josh Pearson, Jake Brown, Ethan Fry, Ashton Larson, Mick Paul, right?
Dalton Beck and John Pearson.
John Pearson.
It's 9. You're 3 deep.
What do you do with all them guys?
That's the biggest question, Reagan. And that's obviously what Jay Johnson and his staff has to figure out. Because you can only put 3 out there. So that's going to leave 6 guys out, right? Obviously, there's going to be a rotation there. I think heavily in right field, maybe a little bit in left. But from what we're hearing, Reagan, seems like 2 guys, for the most part, have locked up a spot. And those 2 guys are both 2 guys that did not play on your team last year. Derek Curiel and Chris Stanfield.
Yep.
So what do you do with the other 7 guys? I really think, Reagan, that this is going to come down to 5 players. It's going to be 5 guys.
Yeah.
Christian Stanfield, Derek Curiel, Jake Brown, Josh Pearson, Ashton Larson.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to 6, Ethan Fry.
Yeah, because Ethan Fry, man, you wish you could find a 10th spot on the lineup because Ethan Fry would be that guy.
And we'll see because you still have the DH spot. But Reagan, I really feel like the DH spot is going to be utilizing an extra outfielder
or an extra catcher. I mean, there's
possibly.
You're talking about Luis Hernandez, who hit 20 home runs last year at Indiana State. You have a wealth of riches, and it's just like, what do you do?
You rotate throughout the non-conference every weekend until you find the guys who you know who they are.
Dude, I don't envy Jay Johnson at all. I envy him because he's an amazing coach, but I don't envy the decisions he'll have to make. That's hard. That's stinking hard, man. Those are some good players you're going to have to.
TT's got Pearson, Stanfield, and Brown starting. I've got it a little bit different. I've got it a little bit differently, but we'll see.
I like it. I honestly
do like it.
I think obviously Okay, I'll give you my thoughts since Pearson, Stanfield, Brown. I'm cool with it. I'd be perfect with that. That's a winning outfield.
The problem is Jake Brown has been absolutely destroying the baseball here in the preseason.
Yeah.
Like unstoppable.
And Curiel is there, like, he seems like he's ready now.
Yeah.
It's a guy you really shouldn't have got to campus.
And then you look at Ashton Larson, who was a staple for you for the majority of last season. And, yeah, it's really difficult, Reagan. So it's going to be 5 guys. And maybe it's just 5 guys throughout the entire season, Reagan, depending on who they're playing,
right?
Who's pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, all those different things, right? So, Josh, you got Josh, a left-handed bat, Ashton Larson, left-handed bat, Jake Brown, left-handed bat, Chris Stanfield, right-handed.
Righter. He's right.
And then Derek Curiel is right as well, I think.
No, Curiel's left.
So you've got a crap ton. All of them are left except Stanfield. So
on Curiel, I think he's left.
Oh, that makes it even more difficult, Reagan. That makes it even more difficult then. Is Curiel left?
I'm going to find out. Yes. Throws and bats left. Yes.
Yeah, that's going to make it even more difficult then.
Josh Pearson bats left too.
Yeah. So you have you've got 4 guys that bat left-handed and 1 guy that bats right. So Chris Stanfield is probably going to be in there just about every weekend.
I mean, Chris Stanfield is an elite. Is going to be an elite defensive player.
Yeah.
Center fielder.
And the good news, Reagan, the good news is if you have an injury, you're fine.
That's true.
You're perfectly fine.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people are higher on Derek Curiel, but he may be super productive in the non-conference, and then he gets to SEC, and he's got to do a little bit of catch up. He's got to do a little bit of acclimating, and so that could potentially free up a lot of playing time for somebody like Josh Pearson, Ashton Larson,
Ethan Fry. And you saw that with Cade Anderson last year. Cade Anderson was like, when he started the year pitching, you were like, doggone, like this kid's fixing a roll. Like this guy's the real deal. And then we hit SEC play, and he became.
It took a while to acclimate.
And now you're talking about he's like, Cade Anderson's probably gonna be your Friday night guy.
Yeah.
So maybe you see the same thing with Curio. You're going to see some of that. He's a freshman. His biggest jump in any sport is high school to Division I sport. It's high school to college, biggest jump, easily. But yeah, he's polished, man, and they're excited about him. He's the highest rated player to make it to campus. A guy you didn't expect to be here, but he is, and so they're high on him. And we'll see. But again, like you said, there's lots of options. You can go with a veteran lineup, like Tyler was saying. Pearson, Stanfield, Brown. It's a veteran lineup. Even though
Pearson, Larson, Brown.
You
go Pearson, Stanfield, Larson.
And you could throw Brown at the DH if you put one of Larson out there. You've got Brown played center field for you last year at times. And you're talking about putting him in right field. That's where you're at with this outfield. It's good.
Yep.
So this is going to be I don't think you're just going to see a set 3 guys until maybe you hit conference. Which, by the way, don't ever say that Jay Johnson's tinkering. Don't say that, because he's not tinkering. That's what he said. Made that very clear to a reporter. He said, I don't even know what that means. I was like, dang. I was like, God. According to Jay Johnson, he does not tinker with the lineup. He puts a lineup out that he believes is going to win the game that day. He's not tinkering. That's what he said. So,
yeah.
Hey, he can say whatever he wants. Right?
He can say whatever he wants. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with it, but sure.
That's what he said. So the sport reporter said, he was talking about non-conference. Can you tinker with the lineup? Whatever. He's like, I really don't know what tinkering means. Like, I don't do that. I put out a lineup that's going to win that day. I was like, 10-4, boss. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So,
gotcha, Skip.
I was like, hey,
okay, Skipper.
Hey, Jay Johnson can say whatever he wants to. So, but no doubt, you're going to see multiple guys, Zach. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah,
I'm so curious to see if Curiel gets the start day one. I'm curious. I'm really
kind of feels like he will.
I really am curious. But so if we had to say it, Zach, if you had to say this is it. My 3 guys, I'm picking these 3 guys. What would it be?
Curiel in left, Stanfield in center.
Day one.
Brown and right.
Oof. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna change it. Larson and Wright, Brown at DH.
Larson. Okay.
I'm gonna go Larson and Wright, Brown at DH.
Brown DH. Okay.
Although the right field's gonna be my least confident.
Well, yeah.
I very easily it's gonna be Jake Brown or Ashton Larson and Wright. I think.
Day one.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna throw you a curveball. I'm going Curiel left, Stanfield center, and Pearson right.
Okay.
With Brown at the DH.
Okay. All right. Bro, leaving Ashton Larson out of the lineup is wild.
The fact that that's a reality, it could be real. It could be a reality.
That's pretty wild.
Guys.
I still feel like Pearson's going to have a similar role as to what he has his entire career at LSU, which is you don't see him in much of the non-conference, and then whenever conference play rolls around, he's a mainstay.
Can you fathom this, Zach?
We were saying the same thing last year that we thought Pearson was going to start day one, and then we didn't see him until really consistently until conference play.
True. The fact, though, this guy made a game-saving catch. I'm talking about game-saving in the World Series against Florida. Game one. I'm going Josh Pearson in right field opening day. The fact that we're talking about that, and he's a guy who
but he didn't do it last year.
That literally saved the game.
And he didn't do it the year following.
What are you talking about?
Reagan, we did not see Josh Pearson a whole lot in the non-conference.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's going to be a mainstay in the main conference. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying. Your point is he made a game-saving catch in 2023, and then in 2024 you hardly saw him in the non-conference.
Oh no. That's not my point. The point I'm making is it's insane that we're discussing this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree.
The depth. That's my point. I'm not arguing it's going to be him because of that. I'm saying
okay, I got you.
Discussing this, and he's a guy who saved your life against Florida game one. That's how deep this outfield is.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And I honestly think your best outfield, if we want to play that game, I think your best outfield is Curiel, Stanfield, Brown.
Yeah.
I think it's your best outfield.
Dude, leaving Larson out, it's pretty wild. That just blows my mind. Leaving Pearson's out is also just
however, I would not be surprised a single bit if at some point this weekend, at some point in non-conference, you see Larson and Brown out there at the same time over Curiel with Stanfield in the center.
Yeah, or maybe you put Pearson in left and Stanfield in center, and then Jake or Ashton's in right, and Curiel takes a seat.
Correct. I think we're going to see all of those. Curiel, yes, I think Curiel. I don't know, the way everybody talks, it's like he's the guy up. But in this non-conference, I think we're going to see a lot of combos.
Yeah,
there may be lineups where Stanfield's, not in their non-conference. Now, I think come conference play, he's going to be the guy.
If you need points, if it's going to be
an offensive day, maybe you sit Stanfield.
You need an offensive day, you probably sit Stanfield.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm just pumped, man. I'm just pumped.
It's wild.
So stinking talented. I mean, like I said, I don't envy Jay Johnson. That's hard. How you fill up a lineup sheet with this team? I don't stinking know.
I don't know either, Reagan.
I don't know. Day one, though, game one, I'm going to go Curiel, Stanfield, Pearson.
All right.
Just game one. Game one.
All right.
Brown at DH. Brown.
All right.
That's what I got.
All right. Let's see what TT's got. So I know we did infield last week, but he said Braswell at third, Milan short, Dickerson second, Jones first, Anderson pitching. Yep, looks about right.
That
Of course,
infield,
we'll get into pitching on Thursday.
the infield he just said, Jay Johnson's essentially confirmed that.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I can't remember what he went on something and said that Milan was going to start at shortstop and Braswell at third. TT Hernandez will be catching.
Okay.
Let's see. Haven't heard much about Fry.
Dude can hit the ball.
I've heard off and on. Tanner Reeves was mentioned a couple times by Jay. Also, if I was Jay, I'd have a whole new lineup for midweek games. Yeah, but it's not tinkering.
Hey, Musso.
It's not tinkering.
Yeah, according to Jay, it's not tinkering. Musso is stinking high on Tanner Reeves.
Yeah, he is.
Really high. And I'm tell you what.
Well, and Terio's high on Mickey Ryan.
Yeah. Before we signed Danny Dickinson, my third baseman was Tanner Reeves. Because we had already signed Tanner Reeves. We signed Tanner Reeves from JUCO like
forever ago.
A while ago.
Yeah.
And dude's talented.
For sure.
Talented. And his bat has been a little bit more than Danny Dickinson recently.
The good news for Tanner Reeves is because of the Diego Pavia rule, he's got 4 years.
Hey, yeah, that's true.
So he's got plenty of time to be able to crack that lineup. Especially next year. Like when Braswell leaves next year, you can put him at third and then, you can have Milan at short and, that's so far off. But anyways.
So stinking excited about this year, though.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I heard now this is off the wall.
Okay.
But Jay Johnson in his press conference literally said there was when they had the fall game against ULL that he stuck Jared Jones third and put Ryan Costello at first at one point. Just now
not
tinkering. That ain't tinkering.
Not tinkering though.
Yeah, John Pearson. He's gonna be another guy to look to play third base, maybe.
Yeah. He's got the outfield and third. Yeah.
Not this year, but he's definitely gonna be playing right field, if anywhere in the outfield.
If he even cracks the outfield lineup.
I'm not talking about this year, but if he stays the same weight he is, that buddy in right field. Right field, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, he'll be in right field. Third base or right field.
Yeah, he gonna have to he gonna have to cut that 248. It's a little
Hey, I get it. Hey. That's I'm telling you, Tommy's first year, second year, he thinned out a little bit.
He definitely thinned out.
Strength and conditioning, thin out a little bit. He will. Zach, the outfield's stacked, man. It's stacked. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a lot of combos early on. So, all right, guys, we appreciate y'all being in here. It's been a great show. Appreciate your interaction, Tyler and Brandon as well. Appreciate you guys. Mike Bowen, good to see you in here as well, as always. And we will see you Thursday. We got one more show this week to wrap up our preview, kind of all things baseball, the day before opening day Friday, right? Amen. Looking forward to it. God, I love SEC baseball. I love it, man. I can't wait for it. So all things baseball coming Thursday. Looking forward to that.
Let's get it.
So we'll see you then on Thursday. For now, we'll catch you next time. 5 Star here. Take us out.
Who that 5 star?